The ground split open beneath Sha Funk's machine, and what he saw made his heart stop. It wasn't a rock. It wasn't anything that should have been there. Beneath the layers of earth, something ancient, something impossible, was staring back at him. For years, Sean had dug through the soil, peeling away the earth like pages of a book. Tune in. Because what lay hidden in the depths of the mine would soon shake the world of paleontology forever. The fossil that time forgot. Sean had spent a long time working heavy machinery, moving soil and breaking through tough rock. Every job came with the same pattern. Dig, move, repeat. His job wasn't one that required going deep underground. Instead, he operated on the surface, peeling back the earth layer by layer to get to the more valuable rock formations beneath. He enjoyed the work, especially the power that came with controlling the giant machines that could easily slice through compacted dirt. He had never considered the possibility of unearthing something remarkable. If anything, most of the time, he would come across the remains of trees or discarded junk that had been buried long before the mine had ever existed. But today was different. His excavator struck something hollow, something that was never meant to be uncovered. Something about this particular day felt different. The ground beneath his machine looked unusual. The texture of the soil had a different quality, something he couldn't quite explain. As he continued to operate his excavator, something resisted the movement of the machine. The sensation wasn't like the usual encounters with big boulders. This one had a stubbornness to it, a refusal to budge in the way rocks normally did. He could have pushed harder, forced his way through, but something told him to stop. There was something strange about the object beneath him, something that demanded closer inspection. Climbing out of his machine, he walked toward the obstruction. What he found didn't resemble any rock he had ever seen before. It had texture, details that suggested it wasn't just another stone. It was embedded in the dirt, but the part that peeked out seemed to tell a different story. It was unlike anything he had encountered in all his years of work. His hands itched to dig, but he knew he had to be careful. If this was as important as it seemed, he didn't want to be the one responsible for damaging it beyond recognition. Reaching for a shovel, he began to clear the dirt away bit by bit. It wasn't easy work, especially since he had to be extra cautious. His mind raced with possibilities. What if this was something ancient? What if this was the kind of discovery that could change everything? The thought sent a jolt of excitement through him, but also a hint of fear. He wasn't an archaeologist or a scientist. He was just a miner. He needed help to figure out what he was dealing with. His radio crackled to life as he called for his coworkers. Within minutes, they were at his side, eyes widening as they took in the scene. None of them could identify what they were looking at, but they all shared the same gut feeling. This was important. There was no way they were going to leave it buried. Working together, they placed wooden boards underneath it, ensuring it wouldn't slip deeper into the mud. Every movement had to be precise. Any wrong move could spell disaster. The tension in the air was thick as they worked. Even with all the dirt and sweat covering them, nobody complained. This was bigger than the usual daily grind. The next challenge was moving it safely. That responsibility fell to Sean, who climbed back into his excavator with a lump in his throat. He had to get it right. One mistake could mean the end of whatever was hidden inside. The seconds stretched into eternity as he lifted the object slightly. For a brief moment, everything seemed to be going well. And then, disaster struck. A miscalculation. His co-workers followed close behind, their faces frozen in shock as they got closer. They could finally see what was inside. The sight stopped them in their tracks. It wasn't just another rock. It was something that had once been alive. It had armor, ridges, and details that made it impossible to mistake for anything else. They weren't just looking at a fossilized bone. They were looking at an entire creature, one that had been locked in time, preserved in a way that defied belief. It was as if they had traveled back millions of years and stumbled upon something that had just stopped moving moments ago. The first step was reaching out to experts. The team contacted the Royal Tyrrell Museum, hoping they would be able to explain what they had found. When the scientists arrived, their reactions confirmed just how incredible the discovery was. What they had initially assumed would be a typical fossil turned out to be something far rarer. This wasn't just any dinosaur. It was one of the most well-preserved specimens ever discovered. The accidental discovery. Sean loved using his hands to work in the outdoors. His day in the mine began like any other. Unlike many other mine workers, he did not have to descend deep underground for his current position. He had been a miner for 12 years and had worked in a variety of mining roles. Instead, he was operating an excavator to dig into a bank and remove sediment so that the rock formation beneath could be mined. This allowed him to simultaneously remove large rocks and a lot of dirt, cleaning it far more quickly than in any other manner. Driving an excavator can be a lot of fun. He had heard about people finding cool stuff while digging, but had never experienced it himself. When he did find something, it was normally garbage that had to be disposed of. He wasn't thinking that he would ever make any sort of amazing discovery. When the mining portion began, he was merely carrying out his duties as a rock mover. They would make up for it with an abundance of profitable discoveries. Being able to remove soil layer by layer, and knowing that each layer was older than the previous, was kind of fascinating. He had to proceed cautiously. As oil and water began to flow into the opening he had made, the dirt he was clearing out had an odd appearance. He couldn't quite put his finger on why. Some of the rocks had distinct looks, but as he dug, something prompted him to calm down. He felt a large, solid boulder restricting the excavator's movements. Though he probably could have forced the excavator bucket through it, he chose not to. First, he wanted to see what it was. So he exited and approached. He could see that something large and possibly really significant was inside the rock, proving that it wasn't as solid as he had thought. Though he was relieved that he had stopped excavating, he now had to protect the item as well. With only a shovel in his hands, he attempted to remove the rock so that it wouldn't sink any deeper into the muddy mess while using his radio to signal for assistance. Who knows if they'll ever discover it again, or if something might happen to it. His heart was pounding, and he was breathing heavily when he heard some of his co-workers come. He realized he couldn't finish it by himself and was relieved to see other miners. For the first time in his life, they had to assist him in keeping the rock intact. After carefully but quickly digging away the rock with his assistance, they set up planks underneath to prevent it from sinking into the mess. They didn't care that by that point they were covered in mud and black dirt. They had no idea what this was. Nonetheless, they sensed that it was crucial. Had quadrupedal species, some of which could switch between two legs. All dinosaur groups shared complex display features like horns or crests, while some extinct groups evolved skeletal adaptations like bony armor and spines. Due to the limitations of flight, the modern avian lineage that descended from the dinosaurs, birds, is typically small. However, many ancient dinosaurs, both avian and non-avian, had large bodies. The largest sauropod dinosaurs, for example, are thought to have reached lengths of 39.7 meters and heights of 18 meters, making them the largest land animals in history. The belief that non-avian dinosaurs were uniformly massive is due in part to preservation bias, as huge, durable bones are more likely to survive until they are fossilized. Numerous dinosaurs were rather little. Some had a length of only 50 centimeters. The earliest dinosaur fossils were found in the early 19th century, and Sir Richard Owen gave the term dinosaur, which means horrible lizard, to these great fossil lizards in 1842. Since then, dinosaurs have endured in popular culture, and fossil dinosaur skeletons have become important attractions in museums all over the world, due in large part to their huge stature and supposedly bizarre and terrible nature. Dinosaurs have become a staple in popular literature and motion pictures like Jurassic Park. The public's enduring fascination with dinosaurs has led to substantial funding for dinosaur research, and the media frequently reports on new findings. The only dinosaurs now living are birds. Birds were regarded as a different class in conventional taxonomy, having evolved from dinosaurs into a different superorder. However, the majority of modern paleontologists choose phylogenetic taxonomy based on presumed ancestry, in which each group is defined as all descendants of a specific founding genus, over the traditional approach of classification based on anatomical resemblance. Birds are members of the dinosaur subgroup Maniraptora, which also includes Avialae. B. Norman and Matthew G. Barron proposed a dramatic reworking of dinosaur systematics. Phylogenetic research by Barron et al. Revealed that, in contrast to the supposed union of theropods with sauropodomorphs, Ornithischia was closer to Theropoda than Sauropodomorpha. They redefined dinosaur as the last common ancestor of Triceratops horridus, Passer domesticus, Diplodocus carnegie, and all of its descendants, ensuring that sauropods and their kin stayed classified as dinosaurs. Because this would have caused them to fall outside of the standard dinosaur classification, they designated the group that includes Ornithischia and Theropoda as Ornithocelida. A real dinosaur was discovered stuck in a rock, soon found to be Borealopelta. It was kept in a museum where people could stare at and learn about its story. The life and times of Borealopelta. 6 years after it was found, the mysterious dinosaur was declared a new species to science and given a proper name. Borealopelta Mark Michelli. Borealopelta means Shield of the North, and its species name is a nod to Mark Mitchell, the Royal Tyrrell Museum technician, who spent 7,000 hours painstakingly freeing the dinosaur from the rock it was found in.